Hey everybody, Jeff Sutherland and Chase Waldron here. Jeff Sutherland team with eXp Realty here in Phoenix. We're going to give you the October 2024 market update, let you know everything that's going on here in the Phoenix Valley. That's Maricopa County and Pinal. This is my business partner, Chase Waldron. Say hi, Chase.
How we doing, everybody? Excited to be here to give you an update.
Awesome. Here we go. So let's share some slides. This is coming from the Cromford report, our good friends at the Cromford report. So, first of all, let's talk about population and all the things that have happened here in this particular area. Look at the places where people are coming from LA County. This happened between 21 and 22. These are tax filers between those years from LA County, San Diego, and Orange County. Those are the biggest areas that we have migration coming from. And because of that, the adjusted gross income in Arizona counties has really gone up. If you look at the chart down at the lower left-hand corner, and you can see Maricopa County has taken on the lion's share of adjusted gross income. We have income earners coming from California, and that is our biggest state of migration. Yeah, probably not surprised, are you? Coming from California. And you'll see here, you can get all this from the Arizona Maricopa Association of Governments website. It's right there. That is the URL right there. You can check it out. 80% of jobs in Maricopa County are within 2 miles of a freeway or light rail corridor. And you can see there on the left, the areas of in the red, you have the most population concentration. And as you go out, you have more sparse population. So people congregate around the transportation lanes, freeways, railways, and things like that. So it's imperative that we keep up. And that is a good segue into the next slide. If you go to the Arizona Maricopa Association of Governments again, you will see the transportation plans for our valley, and it's quite extensive. So if you want to know where the new roads are going in, new freeways and such, that is the right place you need to go, and you can find all that out. Now, you thought the market rates or the mortgage rates were going to go down a little bit. In fact, we did too. But again, we don't have crystal balls here. It actually went up a little bit. So right now we're in the high sixes, low sevens. So we were actually a little bit higher on this grid. We were around, we were above hope. And now it dropped down back to between skepticism and hope. But I'm still hopeful about what happens next year. I think that this is data that came out for the month of October. And I'll tell you right now, all the people I'm talking to on the marketplace after the election, there's a lot more optimism on the economy in general. And so we expect to see some trickling down on the mortgage rates. Maybe not this year, but certainly in the next year. So right now, it's still an amazing time to buy in the last quarter of the year, and I'll show you why here in a few minutes. Now, if you ask somebody if we're having a recession, kind of depends on who you ask. If you ask this Economic Times, this is the same publication, mind you. On one day, on October 2nd, they said, Return to glory days, incomes to double, families to prosper, U.S. inches towards a roaring 20s economic situation. And then the next day, on October 3rd, biggest market bubble in history is about to burst. So even some publications are putting out contradictory things from day to day. So it depends on who you ask. I'm not an economist. I don't know if we're going to have a recession. It seems like every day we go into this, we're getting further and further away from a recession, which is good. But overall, I think there's a lot of good sentiment in the market as far as consumers, especially over the last few weeks, because this is being recorded around the middle of November. And you can see our annual sales rate. When you look over to the right, it's dipped down quite a bit. The last time we had this was back in 14. Back in 14. So this is called what we're in right now in the real estate business. We're in a transactional recession, which means we have lower transactions. So it's imperative that agents like us that do this professionally and that do this full time go out there and fight for our clients and go get our unfair share of transactions because there's a lot less. So that's the battle that people are up against in the real estate industry right now. We're in a real estate transaction recession, which should correct itself in January, we hope. talked about this before. Do home values increase or decrease during recessions? Typically, they do not decrease. In fact, out of all the last recessions we've had over the last seven, there's only been one time where the prices have gone down, and that was during the Great Recession in 2006, 7, 8, 9. You saw the recession hit our hit home prices hard, and that was because of the bad lending practices. Outside of that, home prices have stayed steady or they've actually gone up a little bit. So if there is a recession on the horizon, we actually feel pretty good because the basic economy and mechanics of buying houses is solid. And to get a house now, the underwriting restrictions are even more stringent to get a house. So we feel comfortable with that moving forward.
Yeah, and I want to just say on that, Jeff, it's it's a huge point to drive home because when you talk to a lot of people are saying that, right? They say, "Oh, well, they think we're going into a recession and they feel like home prices are going to drop," and that's what a lot of people think. But as the data shows, that's really not what happens during the recession. So it's a good piece of information to really think about and to know about when you're moving forward, trying to figure out what you want to do and what your next move is.
Yep. And we've been hearing, Chase, a lot of people say, hey, I want to wait till after the election. We've heard that for months. Well, the election's over. Now it's time to make moves. And, why is it a good move to buy between now and the end of the year? Well, I'll show you on a slide what happens here in Phoenix at the end of the year in real estate. Contracts plummet. We don't have nearly as much activity, but our inventory is growing. So if you're a buyer, you should get out there and start looking because the concessions are going out the roof right now. Sellers are compromising and they're flexible. So let's say the rates go down next year in 2024, 25 and 26, and you get a rate today of 6.8. What happens if the rates are a point less next year or 2 years down the road? You can always refi, but you can't change the price you bought your house at, right? So, Chase, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you said it right. They say you marry the price, you date the rate, you can fix the rate later. So when it goes down, right, which the anticipation is that they're going to go down, that you can then refinance, but that price that you were able to lock it in is the same. So you can fix that rate later.
Yep, that's absolutely right. In a valley where there's good jobs, good economy, things are going quite well actually in the grand scheme of things. Strong unemployment rates that aren't too high. So there's no question the valley is going to continue to grow. It's growing as we speak. So get into the housing market now because if you sit there and say, "Well, I'm going to wait to the future," there's a very good chance when the rates go down next year, we believe that they will, prices will probably not go down. Prices
Yeah.
typically don't go down when rates go down. They go
Right,
up.
that brings more people in. More people want to be a part of it when the rates are down. And so when the demand goes up, then the prices go up, and then it's a lot more competitive for buyers that are trying to get in. And kind of to your point, here at the end of the year, the transaction volumes go down and there's a lot less competition out there in the market so that buyers can go in there and oftentimes negotiate better opportunities because there's not as much competition out there.
Yep, absolutely right. Yep. Now, interestingly, most of the states in the country, it's actually cheaper to rent than to buy. And I'm talking about just the hard monthly cost of renting versus purchasing a house. But that doesn't take into account the equity you build through home ownership. It's not a good wealth building strategy to rent, but it is understandable. Sometimes people just can't push themselves beyond that. But I'm constantly seeing articles. In fact, I sent one out on my Facebook page today from the National Association of Realtors on how millennials now are buying more homes and they're doing it very creatively in different ways. So definitely hit us up and we can get you some articles like that to show you how millennials and Gen X people are buying homes now at a much higher clip and they're getting creative while they're doing it. So here's rentals in the Phoenix Valley. Again, that includes Maricopa County and Pinal. This is 1,200 to 1,500 square foot single family rentals. Now, just a little bit ago, we were running at 2,100, 2,100, 2,200. Now we're at 1,957. So rentals have gone down in the Phoenix Valley. Median price of a starter home, you can see if you look last year, we've gone up just a tad. So it's not a whole big change there, but starter single family homes between 1,200 and 1,500, we've gone just a little bit up. So amongst all the craziness in the market is still slightly appreciating. And it's gone up a little bit more as you get up in square footage. So 1,500 to 2,000, the median sales price right now is 435, and we'll probably see a flatness with that throughout the end of the year.
All right, this one here, this is kind of what we talked about earlier, but this is a chart that shows the difference in that 1% drop of an interest rate and how that drops roughly 10% of your principal and interest payment every single month. So this one analyzes an interest rate of 7.5 going to 7. And then if you work in the 2-1 buy down, how much you're saving there. So on a loan amount of 200,000 on that first line item, you can see that if you do the 2-1 buy down at a 5% interest rate, you're saving $257 every single month. And then, going to the 7%, you're saving 68 bucks a month. So that kind of just shows you, that difference in interest rate and how that helps your payment every single month.
Mhm.
And then this one here, a little bit the same, 6.5, or I'm sorry, 7.5 going down to 6.5. You're saving $134 there. And then with that 2-1 buy down, $251 on a $200,000 loan amount. So it does play quite a big role, that 1% interest rate.
That's a big swing, especially when you do a 2-1 buy down. That's a $251 difference on the principal and interest. That's a lot. That's groceries.
Yeah, over a year. Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. And then this one from 7.5 to 6, you're saving 200 bucks a month just on that, and then 244 with that 2-1 buy down. So
Yep. Big changes. So people that have bought in the last year or so, as the rates come down, as we hope they will next year, that's a good opportunity to refinance your house. Now, we talked about why it's a great opportunity to buy right now. This is why. It's, you know, current effect, it says right there, current effect of lower mortgage rates. New contracts have stopped declining and begun to rise slowly. Okay, so if you look at 2024, you can see it's gone up a little bit. That's good. That was when we had a little bit lower rates. But recently, again, this is being taped around November 15th. Recently, they ticked up a little again, again. So you might see that red line start to seasonally head in the same direction. If you've noticed this over the last 3 years, this is pretty much par for the course in Phoenix real estate. And as you get to the end of the year, like in December, this typically plummets. So why is it a good time to buy as a buyer? We have increasing inventory, right? And you have sellers that are like, well, I guess I'm not going to get any contract in December. I might as well just wait for January. And in come you as this buyer, and you're like, hey, I want to buy a house. Let's deal. Let's negotiate, right? So now's your time to get in there and get deals at a much less price or a big time concession. So check it out. Look at the inventory because it's growing every day. I think it's a perfect opportunity, honestly.
yep.
And then the Cromford Market Index, this is the company that we partner with to give us data, and they do a great job. Right now, our supply is at 84% of normal. So we have lower supply, but it is increasing. See, increasing at a pretty steady clip. 6.4 points it's gone up in the last 30 days. And this is an index that we use. It's like our secret sauce. So what you need to know is that supply is growing. Demand is growing too, but just slightly. Okay. So that makes our whole market index for the entire Pinal and Maricopa County service area. We have our market index now at less than 100, meaning that overall we are now in a buyer's market in the Phoenix Metro Valley. That's including Pinal County. We're in a buyer's market. Now, there are certain areas that are still sellers markets, meaning that sellers have more leverage than buyers. But everything in general has trended to be into the buyer's market phase. Now, that's new news. We haven't heard that for a long time in Phoenix. It's been a seller's market for a long time. In fact, we've only had about 4 buyer's markets in the last 20 years. That gives you an idea of how this doesn't happen very often in Phoenix. So look at this. Since 2013, we had balance here, and now we just had supply tick up. You saw that rate of 6.4 points in the last 30 days. That's what that is accounting for. That purple or that blue circle right there is showing that supply is growing and demand is growing at a lesser rate. So what does that mean? You're going to continue to see more inventory through the end of the year, and then you're going to see a gob of inventory hit the market in January. So buyers are going to have a lot of choices going into the new year. But right now, sellers want to bargain. You can see the blue line there, 2024. We're just under a balanced market, slightly in a buyer's market. Okay, pretty stable. And as I said, there's buyers markets, there's some seller markets, there's balance markets. They're all over the place. That's why it's important to work with people like us that understand these different metrics for the different cities, and we know how we can negotiate in the different cities. And each individual contract is very specific. It's very customized on how we work hard for our clients to get you the most dollar in your the most purchasing power, or the most dollars in your pocket if you're a seller. But it's important to know what cities are trending where. Okay. Look at this. The Fountain Hills was sitting at a strong seller's market position at 180 points above normal. Now it went down 7%. Okay, so that's a good decline. So Fountain Hills is now starting to come back to normal. Chandler is slowly heading back to normal, a balanced market. Scottsdale heading back to normal. So I would not be surprised if you see these Fountain Hills, Chandler, and Scottsdale in our next report back down to more of a gray color around Glendale, Phoenix, Mesa. Those kind of numbers, you may see them in the teens, the one teens, heading towards a balanced market. So in general, it's pretty safe to say most cities in this entire valley are heading towards a buyer's market, or a even stronger buyer's market. It's only going to get better for buyers as we move forward.
Yeah, only 4 out of those 17 are trending upward. All of the other ones are trending downward toward that balanced market or toward the buyer's market. So
That's
that's
right. That's right. And so what's interesting is the buyers are going to have more leverage. However, when the rates trickle down, then it's going to get very, very competitive. You're going to have a lot of buyers in the market, which is going to push prices up because you'll have competitive bids. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to have this. This is an opportunity. This is why I'm telling you guys there's an opportunity right now because there's less competition. Even though the rates are higher, you buy now. If you can suck it up and get some sort of loan program that works well for you and you can weather that storm, you can refi later when the rates go down. And look at this, Chase. We got all kinds of stuff going here. We got seller markets, we got buyer markets, balance markets. It's all over the place. But every single month we're seeing less and less on the left and more on the right.
Yep.
And you'll see appreciation continues to go forward. And this is the greater Phoenix area for all price points. We're at 454.4. Not too far off last year at this time, 3.3% increase in monthly median sales price. Okay, Chase, we're talking about days on market. Talk to us, brother.
All right, so just showing here as Phoenix as a whole, it's showing that 32 days is the average of the days on market compared to November of 2023. It was 23 days. So we are seeing compared to the same time last year, the product is staying on the market for longer. And that's just showing that, when that happens, obviously a lot of times sellers are more apt to, kind of like we mentioned earlier, give concessions because they still have to sell many a times, right? Sellers have to sell, and when it's sitting on the market more days on market, they're more apt to, give concessions. And I think we have that on the next slide too.
Yep, absolutely.
So price reduction. So this slide showing that we have 9,660 price reductions through October 27th of 2024, which compared to November same time last year, we were only at 7,700. So a lot more price decreasing, right? Stuff sitting on the market longer, and then that tends to have, a price reduction affiliated with that.
So days on market are up, concessions are up, price reductions are up. That spells buyer's market all over the place. I mean, look at this. Weekly price reductions, 96.60 in 2024. That's quite a bit as you look at this graph. So number of price changes, we call them now enhancements. They're definitely up. They're going up.
All right, so concessions, this is kind of what we hit on. So 52% of the transactions right now are getting seller concessions. So kind of like we talked about, right? The sellers are chipping in for more to help out the buyers. I mean, just last month we were able to get a client in on a home in Santan Valley, and we were able to negotiate all of his closing costs to be covered and the seller to pay for his lease break fee, which was 2 months of rent for him. So he was able to get that done without coming out of pocket at all. And that just shows you that, the sellers are willing to negotiate, right? They're willing to give many a times on these transactions right now. And that's the kind of market that we're in. So
Yeah.
it's really a good thing for buyers.
And you need a fierce negotiator, honestly. And Chase is that, right? You don't see a lot of agents out there getting lease break fees from sellers. This is the kind of stuff that, when you're in the trenches every day, this is what you learn. This is how you do it. So, just know that when you work with us, you're going to get a very fierce negotiator working on your behalf.
That's
52%.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite high. Over half the deals. How about this, Chase?
All right, so this is showing that the typical price point that are getting the concessions is that 250 to 500, right? So kind of that lower to middle price point range is kind of where we are seeing the majority of concessions being given. As the price point continues to increase, there's not as much concessions given, but in that 250 to $500,000 price point, that's where we're seeing the majority of the concessions.
That's interesting. It's like a bell curve turned sideways. It's pretty interesting data. So, seller assisted or paid closing costs from the seller, anything in green, a greenish color, you're looking at less than 50% of the sales contracts which have closing costs. With blue, the darker you get, you're getting above the 50% rate. So if you notice, the trend you see on this map in general is the further you go out in the outskirts and the outlying areas, you're getting more seller assisted closing costs. So that's a good trend you can see here. And there's also areas over here on the east, Apache Junction, there's some green over there. Up in Fountain Hills and Scottsdale, a lot of green there. Carefree is green. But when you get off to the west side where you have that sprawl, when you have the sprawl down south towards Casa Grande, you're going to see the same thing. A lot of blue, more concessions being paid. Price negotiations, okay? Actually, those are the percentage of the actual price versus what the asking price was. So back in 2023 at this time, sales prices were going for about 98% of the list price. Right now, we're sitting around 97.8. So not terribly below, but a little bit lower. This is because sometimes sellers get a little bit too greedy, asking for too much, and sometimes this happens. They have to come down on their price. So a lot of moving parts, my friends. Average sales price actually has gone down just a slight over the last couple months. Median sales price up, according to a year-over-year trend. Sales over asking price, we only have 16% of the sales happening where the sale is above the asking price. And then seller concessions, we have more of those. Good for buyers. Seller concessions, money wise, more of those. That's good for buyers. We have sales price, list price ratios, about the same from last year. And then median days on market before a contract is written, that's up. That's good for buyers. You can see right now there's a lot going on, and I'm going to head it back to and unshare this. The point of this whole presentation is we just threw a lot of data at you guys. We like data. We make decisions based on data, not our feelings. I don't think you want our feelings. I think you want information from experts, and we get our expert information from the Cromford report. So when you do a buyer consultation with Chase or myself, we are going to give you a very detailed orientation of what's going on in your market area, what's going on in your neighborhood at the neighborhood level. We can tell you all that data. We know how to slice it and dice it, right, Chase?
100%. Yep. And reach out. We can talk through the options. A lot of people aren't sure what their options are, or they might think it's out of the cards for them, but it's always good. We say it every month to reach out and we can talk you through what your options are and what your goals are and how we can achieve that. And we'd love to go over our VIP buyer program with you and kind of what we offer up to the clients that we work with. We're here to serve and we're here to help. So reach out. My number is 707-685-7214. And I look forward to talking with you.
And the last thing I'll say, my friends, is there's a difference between a high fiduciary realtor and a realtor that just does the minimums. And we're here to tell you we are all about giving you the best fiduciary service. And I'd love for you to sit down with Chase and go over his VIP buyer program. It's exceptional. We do so many things that go above and beyond what we think is even the standard. We go way above the standard, and that's the way we do business. So please contact Chase. Let's get together. Let's talk about your purchasing power, and then let's set some goals for next year, right? Even if you're not in the area of buying or selling, let's set goals for next year so we can help you achieve those. So with that being said, I'm Jeff. This is Chase. Thank you for following us today. Let us know what you think about the data or any other thing you have to say. Let it rip. We'll be glad to have a good conversation with you. Have a great day, everybody.